And we are live. Guys, we are Huang and
And Heiko, and we are the Essence of Truth podcast.
which is all about the freedom and happiness that everybody wants but do not know how to get. I got slipper there.
That's exactly right. And so today we want to 1 inch punch the shit out of flow state and using the Bruce Lee method to get into it the fastest way possible. And so we're gonna approach it from different kind of perspectives today, where like we share a bit about Bruce Lee, but also our own experiences that we had and all kinds of experiences. And so first one I would like to get into as basically, let's use the example of martial arts, because when I learned Wing Chun, which is like called Chinese boxing, and I had this thing where like every day, every time I would go to the training, I love to learn new techniques, and I was like, what, something new, something new, something new. And when we didn't do something new, I'm like, we did this already. It's kind of lowering my energy already at the beginning. But the funny thing is, the more I did it, the more I started to realize that it's the basic it comes down to. First of all, if you don't master the basics, you won't even get to the point where you can use the rest. And then even with the rest, there are techniques that you just basically never get to use. And just saying this reminds me right now of some MMA fighter. I don't know what the name was, and I don't know what the technique was, but he literally said, like, my favorite technique is like this and this. And I never got to use it in a fight a single time. So I love practicing it because it feels good and I love it, but I can't use it. And I find, coming to the truth of things, this is so often in life coming across. And so for me, with learning new techniques, you get the dopamine rush and these things is coming in, and it helped me get into flow. But it was my expectation and my need to always need more and more and more techniques and stuff. So does it maybe remind you of something? Because we've been conditioned to get more and more stuff, buying more stuff, getting more and more things, and showing it on social media to look status and look cool and things like that. Or in personal development, where we learn and buy more books and more courses and going on to more seminars, and we learn more, we get more knowledge, but we are not using any of it. And so one of the things that I love, what Bruce Lee shared, is like the illusion the illusion of more and the power of less. And so it's not just all about learning. I mean, he learned a lot, but he really focused on what are the essential things here that actually help me in combat. And he even, he was so creative. Like he learned dancing, because he thought, dancing steps gonna help me in the ring, gonna help me in the fight as well. And so he focused on the basics, on the most important things. How can I move better? What is the shortest way for me to attack? What are the actual basic attacks that help me the most? And then how can I bring the maximum amount of power into this? And so there's just so much. And I don't want to, make a monologue out of this, but I'm just so passionate about this topic. And so, Huang, I'm so interested. Like, what are your experiences about this?
Man, my experiences. I remember in the very beginning, right, when I always love depth and the deep of things, and yet I was missing this part when before I was at the gym where I am right now, right. I was at a different gym, and I remember that when we were taught to, hey, go practice, do the puns, do this and do that, and I really get bored. I was like, no, I don't like that, right? And I get bored quickly in that way, thinking, and this is a fatal mistake, guys, thinking that we already know something, which we actually don't. At least not in the level that we could be so much more, right? And as a quote, I don't remember who say that, but knowing is not enough. You must do, right? And And well, as doing, and it's not just one time or two times, you're gonna do it until you enter that flow state, until you recognize that power of the punch, right? And really, after you have recognizing the power of the punch, and there could still be more, which is, even a better punch, as you were sharing the story about Bruce Lee, right? Hey, that martial arts is not enough, so he went and dance, right, and studied dance. How can I move better? How could And with that mentality, he dived even deeper into the flow itself. Wow, I love to call it the flow because much later, I would leave the gym, right, and I go into a different gym, and I have been training until this day, and that is where I discover, right, I see the people when they train, right, when they really punch, there's power in that, right. I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. I'm like, oh dude, this is so 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 I was like, oh, so there's so much more to it. And that is when I discovered that. And there was a certain time when I remember I love training. I love diving deep in. This is where my heart is at, right? Or was at, and now still is at. um, I then during the training, because there was not enough space, because so many people there, so we asked to go into the different room, and it was a bigger space, and I was training there, and I was just like keep enjoying it and moving further and further. And I think after some time passed by so quickly, and I don't remember how long it was. And my teacher entered that place, right? And he opened the door, he go there, he tell me, oh, I totally forgot about you. He didn't even remember that I was there anymore. So much passion, right? And in that way, I dive even deeper into the flow. And a different story, that is the basic, right? The basic that we need to do so often, which in the beginning I was lacking. Um, and during a competition, a international competition at Switzerland, um, I don't remember what it was. I think Zurich is the city's name, and we stayed there overnight, right, to compete. And it was the whole team. When we were observing one of the participants, which was doing wushu, a different form, a different category, and one of the participants, he was making a flying kick, and very very beautiful elegant move, right. And as he was landing, my god, something happened. He injured himself, and that was really devastating, especially first, devastating for everyone. And I think the person that was devastated the most is of course him, because he's trained the most, right. And then I hear my teacher was saying, basic, basic, this is what happened when you don't have practice enough the basic, and you do crazy thing. And you know I think to myself, and then sometimes I love to go deep, so I love to ponder. And until this day, I thinking back, yeah, he's really right. Because when the basic is not enough, nothing else will be able to be efficient. When we just know something, right? Knowing in our head, just like when we memorizing things as we are as children, right? We're supposed to memorize everything, but how much do we really comprehend them? How much do we really, know them and understand them? And that is when life teaches us, when we putting them into practice, which is why school life is very very different than real life, right? Putting those knowledge into action, just like a punch without power, right? What is in there? Well, it's nothing, right? So the same thing with whatever we do. If there's not enough of foundation or the basic, what is in there? Again, is a poor quality product which we put out. So yeah, I just really love this part, and I'm very curious about what your thoughts about it.
Man, first off, thank you so much for sharing this, because there was so much gold in there, and I just need to unpack that for myself. So first off, I love that you what you mentioned at the beginning with the boredom, because this is what I find is for most people already the hurdle to actually get into flow state. Where like at the very beginning, there is boredom, right? You do things, especially when you do things over and over again until you get to a certain point. It takes time. There's resistance. But what most people don't realize is that resistance where dopamine is built up. And after about 15 minutes or so, usually, or especially when your brain is trained, you actually get into flow state. And when like the dopamine is released, you have this constant kind of flow. And this is where, like, as you said, you forget about time. You're completely absorbed. The passion is coming alive. You're feeling alive. And this is also one of the reasons where I find where so many struggle to find their passion is because they're not pursuing something long enough to get to this point. Because I don't know if, like, people are expected to be like, love at first sight, where you do something, you start it, and from the first second, oh my effing god, I'm loving this. This is my passion. I have so many things where I didn't know if I liked them. And in fact, I'm super passionate about scuba diving. But at the very beginning, I was terrified because, because of childhood things, I was terrified of water, especially deep water. And when my girlfriend came, like, on holidays, she's like, hey, you want to go scuba diving? I'm like, yeah. Right? So kind of thing. I didn't want to like disappoint her, but I'm like, my like inside of me, I'm like, no, but I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But I'm so glad that I did, because I mean there was so much resistance against it, right? But there came also so much growth with that. And like, I mean, this is the thing where, like, so much resistance, the more resistance there is, the more dopamine is released after. So after the first like couple of minutes I struggled, but once I really allowed myself to be present, to realize what's going on here, and then, like, I can breathe underwater. It's okay. It's not just okay, it's amazing. I can breathe underwater. Right? I'm safe. And I opened myself up to the experience. I immediately, like, all chemicals were flooded, and I immediately fell in love with that. But I had to overcome this resistance. And we talked with an instructor, and we took baby steps towards it to really get myself to this point. And so it really ties into what you shared, where, like, there is the boredom, there is the resistance, there's something first you need to overcome to get A into B into flow state, B finding your passion. And this is where, like I said, most people don't go there, or they jump ahead too fast, like the example that you gave with the guy, where, like, you learn amazing things, but then you're hurting yourself because the foundations are not in place. Which, same in scuba diving, if you wouldn't learn the techniques, and you're like, you do the course to learn how your equipment works, and if something fails, how to do it, and you have your body to also signal, and it is relatively safe. But you still have to understand you're going into an environment where we human beings are not made to be for. And so it comes down to the basics. And you can't be underwater and, like, let's just say 18 meters or even deeper, it doesn't really matter, but you can't be underwater, something happens, and you freak out, and you panic, and you forget all the basics. Because what do you have? A couple of seconds until the air is out, right? So you must get your basics clean. And with the basics comes also the certainty and the control, the competence to stay in control when it's stressful, when an unexpected situation is happening. And so, like, I never had the problem where, like, something really dramatic happened, but I had it once where we were, I believe, 31 meters below the surface in a shipwreck, and my regulator, like the thing you're breathing to, didn't work properly anymore. So I could still breathe, but it was, less air than I kind of needed to. And you started off, like, getting this urge of, like, I'm suffocating or something. But stayed cool, remember the basics. I knew where the second one was and how to retrieve it without, needing visuals and being able to control myself in the environment. And so I could get to it, breathe through it, everything is cool, and move on. But it comes from getting the basics in. And so I just want to thank you for sharing this, because first of all, you just made me remember these things, but also there's just so much gold into this. And I hope for everyone watching this, if you want to get into flow state, if you want to, be more passionate, feeling more alive, then maybe look into where's the resistance that you need to overcome to get there. Like, where are you literally choosing to hold yourself back before you're getting into flow state, before you're getting into really this passionate kind of mode? Like, I don't know, what are your thoughts about this one?
I really love what you are sharing about the resistant, right? Especially the beginning. And sometimes it could be boring, and the boring is one of the resistant, by the way, right? That we are not aware of, and that could be fatal to literally stopping us on a dead track and that is the beginning, right? And in life it's the same with life. um, when we do something, we can be very excited about it, right? And after we facing the first resistance, for example, which is boredom. It could be, right? And then we don't push through, and then we just literally giving that up altogether. And well, we're missing a very very big like part of life when we don't go into that part, right? And and the next one, and then the next one, and at the end of our life, what else is will be remaining, right? We've been searching for our entire life and we never found and find anything. And this just come up to my mind, right? And thank you for sharing those story about 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 that water, right? That oxygen that you need underwater and the shipwreck. Man, it's so true, because you have discovered that part, what you could do, the basic, what you could do, and just you do it. It helps so much more than when you have no knowledge at all. It's gonna like the adrenaline kicks in, we become panic, and well, what happened next? We die. So, so important. um, so what I connected with was, with the relationship, for example. It is true that in the beginning, relationship could be very 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 exciting. It's called romanticizing. That's what it's called, romanticizing. And when we're going through that, I talk with a couple of successful relationship expert. And how do I measure them? Well, they've been together for like 50 years, 30, like 30, 40. So for a very long time. And their passion, they just couldn't get enough of each other. And this was one of the person that I visit, was years ago in America. I had opportunity to visit, and it was so amazing. And yeah, the relationship that they had, it was not without challenge. And one of the things that they share was to be able to just literally let each other be, right? And also could accepting each other's. And so one of the many things, that relationship fail this day, right? Oh, like, oh, I don't need you, I have someone else that's better, right? I don't care, I don't push through. Right? And we're just expecting things, we expecting it's gonna be like, oh, beautiful forever, without putting in the hard work. Like, okay, where is it going wrong, like, and how much effort am I willing to put in? Of course, when it's a wrong relationship, that is something that you discover, right? I'm not saying that you stay in your relationship forever, but go through the effort, take a look at how much you can grow, what you want, right? Is this a journey that you want to go forever, and so on? And not making the other person wrong, right? Not in like making, I don't know, this person is sadistic, or like on I don't know, all kind of terms, which is judgmental, and we've forgotten the part about us. Are we playing the victim right now? And if we are not, okay, what could we do? And so we take all the power back to us, which is really the basic of what I learned when I go into the discovery journey. I taking back the basic into what is it that I could change? What is it within my power without making the other person wrong? Right? Do I need to walk away? Fine, then I walk away. Um, and yeah, yeah, I just go on a ramp over there. But in the end, pushing through. And yeah. And what are your thoughts about it? I'm curious.
First off, I love that you brought it into relationship as well, because just before you started, I was thinking, okay, maybe not every one of our watchers or listeners can relate to martial arts or scuba diving. And so how can we bring this into a more, relatable space? And so relationships, perfect. And I love what you just shared, because it also reminds me, of Bruce Lee, like, be water, my friend. And I find this is so perfect when you think about at the beginning of a relationship, like both are just flowing, you're accepting the person as they are, you're discovering them, you're open, you're curious, right? And you're present, you're allowing. You're allowing, and I mean, okay, maybe you show yourself a little bit better than you normally are, but you're kind of still allowing yourself to show up as the best you can be in this moment. And so I find it really fits perfectly because at the beginning it's the flow and be water, my friend. And then over time, when we put on expectations, or they should behave this way, they shouldn't do this, or they always do this, right? And then you use all of a sudden, you're putting blocks, you're putting big rocks in the way, and the water doesn't flow smoothly anymore. And maybe there's like little cracks you have to get through, or worst case, there's such a big block that it becomes stagnant. And then what happens to water that's stagnant? Usually it gets polluted, it's getting worse and worse, and it's not a nice environment anymore. And so I find this is the perfect example of this. And it really shows, and it really flows into every area of life. Like, one thing that just popped in my mind, to give another example, is like something simple as food, where, like, I've been on a journey where I discovered cooking, and I wanted the same thing. I wanted to try more things, new stuff, more ingredients, more. And I mean, was delicious, was amazing stuff. But what I always was wondering back to was, when my grandma cooked, she used because she learned cooking after the war, so there wasn't much available. And so she was always cooking with very few ingredients, but the taste is so amazing. And there were such unique things that you can't even find nowadays anymore. Actually, I looked for years for, finding something related to her recipes, and I can't find it. It's almost heartbreaking for me. But coming to the point of this, like when I came to Vietnam here, and you have lots of street food, and like, yeah, you could say it's fast food, but at the end, everyone's cooking it like at their home, like literally in their home kitchen. It's like a home cooked meal. And you can have the same thing in 10 different places, and it's all different because they cook their home kind of recipe, right? And so often, few ingredients, but it's the same. It's just so delicious, so amazing, so unique. And it again made me realize, coming back to the basics, like learning with the things that you have, extracting the flavor out of it, instead of, I need more, adding more stuff here, more spices and more this and sauces and whatever, where then we also, especially nowadays with, all the done for you stuff, with all the preservatives and, colors and all the stuff that's not good for, I don't even want to get there. But just coming to the thing of, like, when you know the basics, when you know how to get the flavor out of it, there's so much you can create. And flow to me is also bringing the creativity into this as well, which my grandma was amazing in. Like, I wish I could share with you guys what she made. But it really comes down to me, but coming back to flow state and what Bruce Lee shared, where, like, and I just want to look it up because I don't want to butcher it, but like his quote was, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely yours. And I find, coming back to the essence of truth of it, like when you learn the basics, you learn what's useful, you can look at the other things, but you have to decide for yourself what's working and what's not. And I'm glad, for instance, with Wing Chun, where I had Sifus where, like, they teach you the techniques, but they literally tell you, use what works for you. Because, sometimes with maybe like your body, maybe you have, like, you're more right-handed, so you're struggling with the left. So you adjust according to you, not according to some perfect kind of system somebody else developed. And so you're taking this and you're adding your own to it. And this is how you get into mastery. Same like my grandmother. She learned to use few ingredients to get the flavor out of it and then combine it in a way that was uniquely hers. So much so that I literally can't find anywhere in the world her recipes or something even close to it. So this is where beauty, where passion, where flow comes in, at least for me. So I'm curious, Huang, what does it mean for you?
Man, I I really love the quote. As a martial artist, I love anything to do with those big figures, right? And Bruce Lee literally has been one of my hero. And I might be butchering the quote, but what you share about the quote is so true, right? Absorb what is useful, right? Discard what is not, and adding what is uniquely your own. And all three of them, I it resonates so much with me is because in the end it's all, it's all your choices that you make, right? Absorb what is useful. Well, what is useful for who? For you, right? What is it that you found useful? Because if it's too far out of alignment for you, it will not be or feeling useful anymore, is it? I mean, like for someone that let's see, well, for someone that have no arms, right? Then a sword or something else will not be working, but maybe a different type of weapon. um or someone that is that is blind, right? So it is be hard to paint, for example, but they have a different gift, which is in maybe in their hands, maybe in their ears, right? That sounds become so much more fine tuning to music, for example, right? So things that are useful toward us, it is so much more aligned with us, and it's connected so much deeper to search for that. It's so, so I don't even have word for that right now. It's so and discard what is not. That is figuring out for in your life, and this is something that it it could take a lifetime, right? Or it could take much shorter, depending on if you are gonna be. And right now, I'm picking your quote over here, brother. Uh, not being a couch potatoes, but being the baked one, like 1,000 degree under oven. So I'm stealing your quote here. Um, and yeah, it's so true how much you putting yourself out there to find out what you need to discard and what you need to absorb, right? Because no, I won't be going to that. And the next one is adding in what is uniquely your own. So as you're going through the absorption, right, you're going through discarding, you become even more fine tuning. And you yourself, in your growth, in your journey, things inside of you have grown, right? And you have discovered. And in that way, you're adding up the last piece, which is your uniquely own, and you adding the value to the world, which is all of us stem from, connecting to yourself, right? Your essence, your true, the essence of your truth, which is the essence of truth podcast. What we are about, right? And to add value to the world. So I really love, like that you share that quote, and and what you share about your journey and those stories. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And also thank you for contributing as and like this is the beauty where I find, like everything you shared triggers something in me where I can add something to it. Where like and all of this comes from walking the walk, doing the things, stepping out, like not being the raw potato on the couch, but turning on the oven, jumping inside, getting the baked potato with some butter and garlic on it, and, and becoming this delicious thing. Yeah, but what I mean is like it's by walking the walk where you make these experiences where you get to know yourself, which then allows you to find what's uniquely yours and add it to it. And I find same thing whether you do martial arts, whether you create an online business, whether you want to cook some things or create art. It's like first you learn somebody else's technique, method, whatever kind of thing. You learn what works for you, you let go of the rest, and then along the process you start adding yourself to it. And this is how you stand out in whatever kind of way, in whatever kind of area you want to explore yourself, so to speak. And so it really comes down all to this. And so to me, instead of taking a takeaway out of this, I would like to end today's session with a question where like or like basically using this quote from Bruce Lee where like what is the thing for you that really adds value to your life, that really works out and that helps you to move towards what you choose, as your goal in 2025. And what are the things that you need to discard? Is it some clutter stuff? Do you need to get rid of some objects? Do you need to get rid of some thoughts, some beliefs, some old habits, maybe even a person in your life that we tend to hold on to because of some past things or whatever, but maybe they are actually dragging us to our old self. So I mean, this can go in all kinds of directions. But what is it for you? What is something that adds value to you, that's really useful, that you maybe want to bring more into your life? What's something you want to let go of? And how can you bring yourself into the process? Because this is then where there's so much passion that's coming from this, when you're adding yourself and you're finding a way with that to serve others, whether it's people, animals, the planet. This is where true passion and fulfilling, at least for me, comes from. I don't know, what is it for you, Juan?
Man, I hearing that, and yeah, it's hmm, um, I love it. I when you were sharing, I hear when you adding your own, right, what is it that you can absorb? I know I'm gonna absorb that quote what you share, right, not being a couch potatoes but going out there with the 1,000 degree. And also the quote of absorb, absorb, letting go and adding your own. It is very, very important. It's allow us to stay up to date. It's allow us to move into this life of value, this journey, because our beginning, it was the first time that our heart was beating, right? And our end was, well, when it stopped. And on this life is when our last breath was thrown. So in those journey, finding out what is it that you can absorb. I know absorbing those, right? And what I'm gonna let go of, haven't figured that out yet. Right now, gonna work on that. And what I'm gonna add in my own is, I would say, the energy and the flowing thing. And one more thing I would like to add as well, which is, you know, um, humility. Here's the thing: adding up into your thing, it doesn't mean that you like, oh, ego is great, it's good, right? As long as you stand your ground, it's not mean disrespecting or invading. It's rather inviting. And with that, you bring, I'll say, protection, and also protection to yourself and your loved one as well. Because hey, I literally am invite, and you must know it in yourself, right? You have that intention and working toward that. And if you are wrong, or if you are not perfecting yet, perfecting is a myth, by the way, then you fall and you're getting up again and you find it out further. Because it's not about, I'm that, right? But I'm walking that path. And as long as you're traveling that path, I mean, life will be different. Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing that. And like, yeah, totally. I didn't even think about, in that direction. But thank you for sharing that, because I find it so important. This is really where it comes down to the essence of truth, right? When you're living from your truth, you are present, you are allowing, but you're also protecting what's important, and you're communicating in that way. This is when you're flowing through life in a beautiful, happy, loving, passionate kind of way. And so, maybe I'm going to take this one as my takeaway today. With that being said, though, I'm very curious for our listeners or watchers, like, what is it for you? What are your takeaways of today? What are something that, that works really well for you, that you adopted very well, that you absorbed? What is something that you need to discover? And how can you bring more of yourself into what you do, into what's important for you? So I'm really curious to hear your insights, your stories, or your questions, because we want to create the space with you, right? And so anything you share, we love to hear it. And if you have any topics you would like us to cover, then feel free to share that as well. With that being said, though, I'm wishing you the most amazing rest of the week. Looking forward to next week. And remember who you are.
And remember the power of creation you possessed. All right. All right. Take care, guys, and see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.